You may see some headlines about a slight dip in podcast listening in 2022. Here's why you don't need to worry.
And now, a look at this week in podcasting news. It's the Jag Show Podcast.
A couple weeks ago, the Infinite Dial 2022 was released by Edison Research. It is kind of the Bible as far as podcast listening data. And it did show a slight drop-off in podcasting. Monthly listeners went from 41% of the overall U.S. population down to 38%. Now again, it is nothing to worry about. The reason why is the pandemic turbocharged podcasting growth, and now people are settling back into their routines. 109 million Americans still listen to shows every month, and that's still ahead of where we were before the pandemic. And further, podcasting awareness continues to grow, now up to 226 million people, or 79% of US adults. 4 out of every 5 people are familiar with podcasting. For more on this, there's links in our show notes to Tom Webster's recent column on this, as well as the actual Infinite Dial 2022 study. Spotify is hoping to make a profit off of the podcasting investments they've made soon. That's the word, is soon, from an article in NASDAQ. Remember, they spent $100 million on Joe Rogan and then a boatload of money to buy other platforms. They're hoping that's finally going to turn around into revenue for them. Maybe not 22, but potentially by 23. Also, Spotify is tinkering with a new interface that's going to be more like Tik Tok, which is, of course, wildly popular in the social media world, where you're going to have snippets of podcasts play, just like the beginning of TikTok videos play in your TikTok feed. It's for our goldfish limited attention spans. Good news, it can help podcast discovery. Bad news, if you're a podcast creator, that first couple seconds of your show better be attention-grabbing if people are going to start skimming through it in their Spotify feed. If you want to see a sneak preview of what that new Spotify interface is going to look like, it's already on your phone. If you have an iPhone, you can open up your web browser and type in Spotify:internal:podcast clips, all one word. I'm going to put that in our show notes as well. Some other new podcasting tools. Podcast host Blueberry has updated their PowerPress plugin. If you have a WordPress website, you don't necessarily need to host your show on Blueberry, but that's the way to integrate your podcast into your WordPress website. Substack, which has been very good on e-newsletters lately, is now going to be a podcast host. And ACast has ruffled a few feathers in how aggressive they've been. They are apparently offering free podcast hosting, but I can't tell you how many emails I've gotten from ACast say, hey, come to ACast. Hey, come to ACast. From what I can tell, it's a legitimate platform, but the amount that they're spamming makes it a little bit off-putting. One final tool to mention, podcast transcriptions are becoming easier and easier. I personally use a platform called Descript, Descript, like Descript. Headliner, from what I've seen in creating videos using that tool, their transcription's a little bit more accurate, and they now have a tool Headliner does called Eddy, Eddy, where they can transcribe shows for you automatically. Interface isn't quite as easy to edit. I played with it this morning, so I like Descript for the interface and editing. I think Headliner is slightly more accurate. Bottom line, there are lots of tools out there to transcribe your podcast so you can have a transcription for your show, make it more accessible to your audience. As always, if you have any questions about podcasting or need help launching or improving your show, find me at jagindetroit.com. And until next time, stay healthy and stay safe. Later.
Thanks for listening to the Jag Show Podcast. For help with your podcast, find Jag on the web at jagindetroit.com.